plain to see. With people like you, folk have a better break to take to people like me.
Well, hello, and thank you for tuning into Joy's World.
It's a real privilege for me to speak to Les Solomon today on Joy's World. Les, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, you're a bit of a Renaissance man. You do...
Am I?
Yeah. Well, you do so many things. You're a
see what
talent
you mean.
agent
Yeah.
as well.
I'm an agent. I produce plays and sometimes direct plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's all I really do now. I write for a few magazines and things from
Yes.
time to time, but I used to do a lot more journalism. It's mainly being an agent and a manager and
Yes.
a producer and a director that I do now. And I mean, I'm probably busier now than I was 5 years ago.
Right.
Which I think is the last time Joy interviewed me.
Oh, okay. Now, how do you know Joy? Let's start there.
How do I know Joy Ruby? Okay. Joy Ruby and I met in 1966 at Holy Trinity Church in Kingsford.
Oh, wow.
I was involved in an amateur production of The King and I,
All right.
and I was playing. I tell people this and they laugh. The young lover Luntar, the Eurasian lover who is in the shadow, and she was
Oh, I
playing.
like how you did that. That was
You like that? That's good. And she was playing, of course, Anna.
Yes.
And we became good friends through that. And over the years, I tried to get out of the amateur thing not long after that, because I was only 19 at the time, I have to add. So I was naive about acting and everything at that stage in my life. And it was a different world then. You know, you didn't have NIDA and WAPA and all these places that young people can go to now. And so but we've known each other over the years. In the 70s, I worked with her for a while on Studio J, her talent as an agent. The first time I ever worked as an agent was with Joy.
Okay.
And between about 1976, 1977.
Right.
And that sort of made me realise I didn't want to be an agent. And then it took me another nearly 20 years after that before I became an agent.
You sort of said, okay, I'll do it now.
There was a series of circumstances that sort of drew me into it, so I didn't have a choice.
Okay. Do you enjoy being an agent?
I do. I enjoy looking after actors. At the same time, I think it can become very draining, and actors can be wonderful and they can be difficult, you could say. But most of the time, they're terrific.
So what would you advise anyone who sort of wants to do acting or wants to get into it?
I'd say understand the industry. I don't know whether a lot of the drama schools really explain it to the students properly, because I get a lot of starry-eyed students that have come out of WAPA and NIDA and VCA, and they all seem to think that the industry is going to work in a particular way for them, and sometimes it does, if they're lucky. But quite often, as someone said to me, in a class of maybe 15 or 20 actors that have come out of any one given year, 4 or 5 will maybe have a career out of that.
Yeah.
And that's the average. And they all come out thinking, oh, no, I'm going to be successful as a star. And they may for a couple of years, but, you know, it's understand the industry, realise it's a situation of longevity, that it's not something that happens overnight. And also, and most importantly, you have to work very hard, and you have to be very, very focused. And it has to be your passion, and it has to be your love, and you have to want to do it and want to work hard. Otherwise, why do it? You know, go and be a butcher or a doctor or a candlestick maker. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of actors these days do take it very seriously, and I think they realise that it's a make or break situation. If they really want to work for them, they have to go out and get their show reels done and be seen, and as much as they can, and do co-ops where they can be seen by people in the theatre. And they just can't. The idea of actors sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring, I think, is long gone, because it's got to be a proactive. It's got to be a proactive profession. Otherwise, that might as well not do it at all. And I think that the actors that I've most worked with have been very proactive, and most of them have had great careers from one way or another.
Well, I'm sure you have a lot to do with that as well.
Well, I've certainly tried and pushed
Yeah.
You know, and I push very hard, and it's not easy. We have a very unusual system in Australia where casting agents are not necessarily the easiest people in the world to work with. There's a bit of a bias in this country against people who do music theatre.
Really?
From the film and television world, that they think if
Yes.
they're too big for film and television, which of course is utter nonsense.
But there's so many musicals in film.
Yeah,
at the moment.
I know, and but there's a bias which isn't in America and isn't in England, but is in Australia, and that's one of my big gripes. Is that
Oh, I didn't know
it's okay if you start working in film and then like Lisa McCune or Hugh Jackman, and then you go over to music theatre.
Yeah.
But if you start working in music theatre
can't
and
go
then
back,
you'll find it very difficult to make that transition
know
elsewhere, and it's become. A lot of actors are now becoming very angry about it because it is becoming more and more difficult for people who've worked hard in music theatre to actually then go into film, because they say, oh, but you don't know what it is to be a film actor. All it is to be a film actor is to be able to be real, be truthful, be honest, be low key, not produce to the back row, and anyone can do it. Anyone can do it if they really work hard at it. But they have to understand the different. But they are very different mediums.
It's a huge difference, isn't it? You know,
Very
it's-
different
it's-
mediums.
It really is.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
Every time I do a film, I've got to turn it all down.
Everything has to be taken right down, stripped right back. But people can do that, and they do that, you know. And it's just young actors can do that. It's not that hard, and they can sing and do that as well. Even though a lot of
Dance
casting
and that
agents
sort
seem
of
to think they can't.
Yeah.
You know,
It's quite hard as an agent, isn't it? Because you've got to coordinate so many people.
you
and
do,
so many
and it is
things and-
hard to get to. At times, you just have to. I ring up our casting agents and say, look, I put this up for this person. If you don't look at this person, I'm just going to jump off the cliff, you know. And usually they'll laugh and say, well, we don't want you to do that, you know. But I mean,
hopefully
it's
they
getting
do.
their imagination to actually be able to see.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of castings, particularly film and television, become increasingly difficult. It's like walking in, thank you very much, do your scene, thank you, out you go. I said, how can you tell? How can you tell them? And yet, quite often, they get it right. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
I think they're looking for that something to just jump at them.
Yeah,
don't they, or
that's
something,
right.
Yeah, which, as you say, you have to sort of get round it a bit. Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh,
You certainly do.
yeah. Thank you so much for talking to us.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been great meeting you and everything like that.
Yeah.
Lovely to talk
Thank
to
you, Camilla. Thank you.
There ought to be